Hey, so I just finished watching Parasite, and while I did really like it, it's once again not the 10 out of 10 masterpiece that everyone claimed it was. I noticed some flaws for sure. Uh, the ending was very messy, but I'll get into that once we get to the spoiler section, which I'll warn you about for those who hadn't seen the movie. I'll put a little warning thing so that way you can pause or exit out the video and then come back later after you've seen the movie. But for those of you who have not seen the movie, I'll start off spoiler free. Also, before I get into the review, I just wanted to say that I wanted to update my score for 1917. Before I forget to say that, I wanted to lower it down to like a 7.5. I just felt like, I mean, maybe I do need to re-see it before I lower it back down, but looking back on it now, it doesn't feel like it earned that high of a rating. Looking back on it, it just that was just me trying to like conform a little bit because everyone was giving it so high of ratings. I think a little bit, and I think it's okay for me to just rate it lower and just be fine with that. Anyways, so yeah, that's 1917. 7.5 I think is fair. I think that's honest. But back to Parasite. The lighting in Parasite is weirdly noticeable. Uh, I was told to like go in knowing as little as possible, which I was told that a little too late because, well, I should say what I knew in the spoiler section because I'd be saying things about the movie. Okay, so spoiler free section, I'll say literally nothing about the plot, so that way you guys can know nothing. So things I like, things I didn't like. Things I didn't like is they use like this cliche violin thing towards the really messy ending. And while it wasn't as bad of a hiccup as Irishman's ending, it still like detracts from the score for me personally. Um, there was also like some pretty bad pacing issues. I feel like it could have been condensed down like another 20 minutes. Things I did like, uh, even though I found a lot of it pretty, like, not surprising, there were a couple of surprising moments. It's just that there were a ton of moments that didn't catch me as off guard as everyone was proclaiming because like everyone was like, wow, it's the most subversive moment, you'll never guess what happens when spoiler, and I'm like, oh wow, can't wait for that scene that you gave me vague hints towards. And then the scene happens and I'm like, oh well, I totally guessed that because of the vague hints you gave me, and because, well, it's kind of obvious once you get to the beginning of that scene how it's going to play out if you think about it for a split second. But I'll get into that in the spoiler review. Uh, the, there's a big problem I have with this director, which is that his foreign language comedies aren't funny, like, at all. Like, for example, in Mother, when the I found that movie wasn't funny either. It was supposed to be a comedy, like, you know, slapstick pratfall, guy gets knocked against the car, ha ha ha, so funny, but I'm just like, This one was at least funnier, like, in theory, I think. Like, I found myself going, oh yeah, alright, fair enough. So like it was at least decent, but then like the other tone that it was constantly being, which was like thriller because it's a comic thriller, was like way more present than the comedy. So I think that really helped on this front. So that's why I'm gonna cut it a break, even though I didn't laugh during the comedy. There were a couple of light chuckles, but nothing like out loud. Uh, I did enjoy it though. I did give it a 7.75 out of 10, I think. Maybe an 8. I don't know. The ending was just super, super messy. Like, it felt like, gee, I don't know how to end it. Let's throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Best picture? Best picture of the year? Is that what we're getting? Not only best foreign language film, but also foreign language films. I find them really hard for me to personally get into. Not only because like it's hard for me to keep up with the text, but also like trying to keep up with the story involved. And like it kind of feels like a chore, like an extra layer of work to get through movies like this. Like I think that's why a lot of mainstream audiences like to stick towards American movies, plus I'm having the bigger budgets and stuff. So while I do understand the directors comments about like all you have to do is get over the 1 inch barrier of subtitles and you'll find some amazing movies. I don't think it's exactly fair for him to say that because there's just this atmosphere of boringness when it comes to like having to read subtitles throughout the entire film, and it just feels like work, and it's not as much fun as just watching the darn movie, you know. And it's a hard thing to get over. Uh, Only like a few foreign language movies, in my opinion, have gotten over that. Like one good example of that would be Battle Royale. I think that one got over that because there's like so much action in that movie. It's so tense that you barely even notice because it's just so much fun. Uh, but that's like probably the best example of a foreign language film to do that too. But there's some really good dramas that have done that too, though. There are some like really good ones. But yeah, this one was also a pretty good one. Like I totally see why this one's universally acclaimed and why everyone seems to like this one because yeah, I do like this one. It's just way more flawed than everyone says it is. Everyone's giving it tens, and here I am giving it like 7.75 or an 8. Like I'll probably watch it again. It's just way too long and there's like some definite issues. There's like some fun parts of the movie, but it feels kind of inconsistent with the pacing and like uh what else was it? The plot isn't as surprising or clever as it thinks it is. And I feel like I've been way too exposed to this movie. Like, people have been talking about it way too much, I mean. Not so much that I've gotten too much spoiled. That's not the problem at all. I didn't know anything about the plot practically. It didn't hinder my enjoyment at all. What hindered my enjoyment a bit was hearing the name Parasite come up over and over again until I was annoyed about it, like because the Oscars are coming up next month when I'm recording this. So like I can't stop hearing about Parasite, and I'm kind of getting sick of it. Even though I like the movie and I knew I was gonna like the movie, like same thing happens with Irishman and Endgame and all these other movies where it's like, yeah, they're fine, but they're not tens. So like, can you please be quiet for once? Like if it was like better films, then I'd be fine with it. Like if one of them was Marriage Story, then I'd be fine with that. If one of them was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'd be fine with it. And both of those are up for Best Picture, so it's like you'd think you'd hear more noise. But no, for whatever reason, we don't. I did like the contrast between the rich and the poor, but I felt like there could have been more depth or character development between the two of them. I thought that all the characters were kind of thoroughly unlikable, because as the title implied, Parasite, I know the parasite term is supposed to apply to this third party in the movie, which I won't spoil in this section, but all the characters were just so unlikable that I felt like you could have called any of the characters parasites and gotten away with it, which is probably the point of the film. But if you want that to be the point of your film, call it Parasites, not Parasite. And I know that the main parasite is that third party character, but I mean, go like the prisoners route where it's like if you want to have the double meaning, then put the S on the end. Yeah. Also, like, I know they wanted to go that route, but couldn't they have tried to make the characters more likable, like the humanizing the rich characters more and made the made all the characters feel more human would have been welcome, because I didn't like a single one of them. I felt like if I would have had some attachment to them, especially with the ending, it would have gone down better with me. I don't know, but I didn't feel anything for any of them. I felt like there wasn't much character development with any of them. I don't know, I just didn't really care. Yeah, the thriller parts of the movie are fun though. I thoroughly enjoyed those parts of the movie. Those were like the best part. But then the social satire was also pretty great. And yeah, the comedy is like decent enough, even though I didn't find it that funny. So yeah, like 7.75 or an 8 out of 10. Now, if you've not seen Parasite, I'm going to go into spoilers. So turn off the video or pause it, watch the movie, and come back. Just a warning, it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes of subtitles, so be prepared for that. But everyone loves it, so you will too, so don't worry about that. Okay, you're back. Now we're going into Spoiler Town. So, the things that I knew going into the movie were that there was the rich and poor dynamic with like the road separating them, like the high and low thing. I knew about something. There's some twist lurking in the basement, but I didn't know what it was. I knew that. Well, I had seen the trailers. Uh, what else did I know going in? There wasn't much, I remember, because like I did a pretty good job of keeping things spoiler free. There were a ton of lists that came out where it's like delving into the twist of Parasite, and it was that one scene where she's like, "Oh my gosh, I see the lady doing the disease into the garbage can thumbnail that you see everywhere." That thumbnail is just everywhere. But yeah, I also knew about the flooding scene, and what else? Oh, that changes from a comedy to a thriller. And I think that was it. Everything else I was told to keep. After that, I was told to keep everything fresh, so I didn't hear anything else after that. So everything else was completely new. I knew basically nothing about like the actual plot of the movie, so all that caught me by surprise. It's just the twist, and I found the twists kind of predictable. I wish that the twists were like more crazy, like sorry to bother you crazy. Like, what if what was hiding in the basement was something like the. Well, I guess I shouldn't spoil Sorry to Bother You, but like the bathroom scene in Sorry to Bother You. I wish something like that was the basement sequence. That was what I was expecting. Something like that. But no, that's not what we got. And no one really talks about that twist in Sorry to Bother You. I in Sorry to Bother You. Like I hadn't heard many people talk about it, which is weird. Like I've heard like a couple times people bring it up, but it doesn't seem like the most mainstream movie to talk about, which is kind of funny. Definitely check out Sorry to Bother You. It's a great movie. But back to Parasite. Uh, I to address which the earlier twists. I found kind of predictable. Like, oh, what's hiding in the basement? It's a tunnel to the old person's husband. And I was just like, okay, that's not really all that shocking, like everyone was making it out to be. That doesn't exactly shift the whole narrative. Like, so what if he was there the whole time slowly dying of hunger? Who cares? No offense. So what if he's the parasite, or this old woman who used to work there that you took over her job was the parasite? There's a lot of really weird scenes in the movie. Like really weird character choices that can't come out of nowhere. Like what's with the scene where there's a lot of scenes where I'm like, what's with the scene where? Like the whole ending is what's with the scene there. And then there was the scene in the limo where I was like, what's with the scene where? And then the whole thing where it's like the son gets all hot and bothered with like the teenage girl. I'm like, that's not ethical. But the moment he treats it like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And I'm like, is this like a culture thing where like in Korea this is totally fine, but like in America we're like, don't do that crap? Or is it like not right in Korea? But since there's a thriller comedy, we're just gonna treat it like it's fine. Or is their age difference not as big as I'm assuming? That's totally possible too. Uh, but the what else? There's so after the scene where it's revealed that the husband was like in the basement the whole time, the movie gets a lot better, like thriller wise, because it gets a lot more tense. So there's like a lot of scenes where you're like, wait, did that person just die? So like all the subversiveness after that scene caught me off guard. So like all the fake out deaths, all that, everything like caught me off guard after that because I had no clue where it was going. And it was really clever because they had fake out foreshadowing and stuff like that, so good on them. But the ending is just so messy though, because it feels like the characters that they choose to kill off kind of die for no rhyme or reason. And then the character that snaps, the dad, and just totally obliterates the other dad, it's like, okay, but why does is this character suddenly a murderer? That doesn't seem really well established. It's just kind of like, oh, we need a climactic ending. Let's just have him be a killer too. I mean, I did a similar thing in this one screenplay I was writing towards only that scene was like towards the middle because all heck breaks loose towards the end. So that's not even like halfway up to like how cranked up the tension goes in that script, but at least I had like some build up to that. Like at least it made sense in what I'm writing. I'm noticing that I'm critiquing movies a lot more for things that they should be doing better because I'm writing it better, no offense. I mean, I know that I'm not a good writer. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not a good writer. I know I'm not like the most talented writer and that like my screenplays probably aren't as good as I think that they am or that I think that they are, but it still feels like just from an objective standpoint, you gotta lead into these things, right? I mean, that's what I'm doing. You just, you can't just do that out of nowhere. Just like, oh, this character that the only foreshadowing that we had up to that point is he was like, oh, if you don't have a plan, then you can kill people, so whatever. But that wasn't enough to like foreshadow him just straight up killing the other dad with no motive to kill the other dad. Like, why didn't he like the other dad? They didn't really establish that. They go through the plot beats so quick in some places, and then so slow through others. The pacing is pretty weird through the movie that it just comes off so odd. It's just. It's. The. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. Ugh. Also, my head hurt during like the middle act of the movie leading up to the basement reveal because there were a lot of plot points that were thrown at me, and I missed a reading of line of dialogue, which threw me off for a really long time as I was trying to figure out what was happening plot wise. So it totally threw me out of the loop for a really long time there. So maybe that didn't exactly help, but like, it's so hard to keep up with these movies. But yeah, I did still like it. But Snowpiercer is still definitely my favorite of the director's work. Oakja was just weird, man. But yeah, Snowpiercer just had such a great atmosphere. It was very weird, but in a good way. The cast was so good. The action was great. I love Snowpiercer. That movie's great. But yeah, you should definitely check out this one too, in case you hadn't already. But yeah, I'm guessing I'm not the first person you've heard about this one from. Yeah. Oh, also, ironically, the scene at the beginning where they're having phone issues and they're like, I can't get the Wi Fi. I was having Wi Fi issues while watching the movie on my phone because my brother got the Blu ray and digital, so I was watching the digital on my phone. So the movie kept quitting and cutting out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to finish the movie. But I kept having the problem that the characters in the movie were having, only I was having that problem with the movie itself on my phone, which the characters were having with their phones in the movie. How is that for irony?